Welcome to Wisdom for Wealth, Your Path to Prudent Life by Dr. Lawrence Osifo.
Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be unpacking some absolutely timeless insights from Dr. Lawrence Osifo's work, Wisdom for Wealth, The Path to Prudent Living. Honestly, you can think of this text as an architectural blueprint. It's a complete guide for building a secure, truly fulfilling life. So let's jump right in and look at the exact mindset and actions you need to actually build it. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. We're going to construct our understanding today by looking at 4 key pillars. First, the pursuit of true wisdom. Second, the power of the tongue. Third, wealth, pride, and humility. And finally, navigating conflict and relationships. Section 1. The pursuit of true wisdom. Right off the bat, Dr. Osifo gives us a stark contrast between two very different types of people. On one hand, you have the prudent seeker. This person is highly intentional. They actually separate themselves from the everyday noise to actively seek out knowledge. Their ear is always tuned in, looking for it. On the other hand, you have the fool. The fool has absolutely no delight in understanding. They aren't trying to learn anything new at all. And why is that? Because as the text says, the fool only wants his heart to discover itself. Now, notice that specific phrase, discover itself. What does that actually mean in real life? Well, in Osifo's context, a fool doesn't want to learn. They just want to put their own opinions on display. They just want to show off and hear themselves talk. This so brilliantly illustrates a modern trap we literally see every single day. Just think about your social media feed, or maybe even your last big team meeting. How many people are talking purely just to be heard rather than actually listening so they can grow? It's like the fool uses conversations as a mirror, but the wise person uses them as a window. Section 2. The power of the tongue. So why does he focus on the tongue so heavily? Well, he says it point blank. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. The sheer gravity of this statement just cannot be overstated. Our words are not neutral. They aren't just invisible air vibrating in a room. They literally carry the weight of life and death. And here's the kicker. Whether you're speaking life or speaking death, you are eventually going to have to sit down and eat the fruit of the words you've planted. To show us exactly how this plays out on the negative side, Osifo maps out a direct, step-by-step downfall. Let's walk through it together. Step 1. A fool's lips enter into contention. They just can't resist getting into a pointless argument. Step 2. Their mouth literally calls for strokes, meaning their words invite negative consequences or punishment. And finally, step 3, it becomes the snare of his soul, leading to total destruction. Loose lips don't just sink ships, you know. They actively construct the very trap that catches the speaker. This brings us to a really crucial point, how we manage our response time. Answering a matter before actually hearing it, the text calls that absolute folly and shame. It's the classic trap of the quick reaction. But contrast that with a wise person's words, which are described as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. A flowing brook is constant, it's refreshing, and it runs deep. True wisdom takes time to gather depth before it finally flows out. It's the stark difference between a knee-jerk reaction and a genuinely thoughtful response. And honestly, we really can't talk about the tongue without addressing the elephant in the room, gossip. Osifo notes that the words of a talebearer are as wounds. So that supposedly harmless chatter at the office water cooler, it's not just a surface scratch. It's a deep internal strike that goes down into the innermost parts of the belly. It damages people on a fundamental internal level. Moving on to Section 3. Wealth, Pride, and Humility. When we look at the roof of our structure, we have to evaluate our daily effort. Osifo says something fascinating here. He who is slothful in this work is brother to him that is a great waster. I absolutely love this framing. We usually think of a lazy person as someone who just does nothing, right? Just sitting around. But Osifo equates laziness with active destruction. By not doing your work diligently, you aren't just hitting pause. You're actively partnering with wastefulness. You are wasting time, you're wasting potential, and you're wasting valuable resources. Now, what's really interesting here is the massive contrast between objective safety and the mere illusion of security. The text presents us with 2 completely different types of fortresses. The first is spiritual. The name of the Lord is a strong tower, where the righteous are genuinely, objectively safe. The second fortress is the rich man's wealth. The rich man views his wealth as a strong city and a really high wall. But there's a huge catch here. It is only a high wall in his own conceit. Literally, in his own imagination. Wealth provides this psychological illusion of total invulnerability, but at the end of the day, it's not a real fortress. And you see, this illusion of invulnerability, it often leads directly to pride. As the text warns us, before destruction, the heart of man is haughty. Pride is the ultimate precursor to a fall because it totally blinds you to the cracks in your own walls. But if you want the exact opposite of destruction, you need humility. Humility is the absolute prerequisite that comes before true honor. Basically, you have to bow down before you can ever be lifted up.
Let's be totally pragmatic for a second here, because Ozyphos certainly doesn't shy away from the harsh realities of influence. It notes that a strategic gift can absolutely make room for someone and open doors to bring them before great men. But it also shows how society's communication warps around money. The poor are often forced to use careful entreaties, pleading carefully and softly with their words, while the rich often answer roughly. It's a pretty sobering look at how financial status unfortunately alters basic human behavior and empathy.
Which brings us to Section 4, Navigating Conflict and Relationships. This section opens with an incredibly timeless relational truth. He that is first in his own cause seems just, but his neighbor cometh and searches him. Come on, have you ever heard a story from a good friend and you were just totally on their side, completely outraged on their behalf, until you actually hear the other person's side of the story? The first side always sounds right and perfectly logical until it gets cross-examined. It's a massive warning for us to hold our judgment until all the facts are actually on the table.
But what happens when both sides are just too stubborn? Especially when really powerful people clash and things get heated. How do you fix it? The text mentions that the lot causes contentions to cease and parts the mighty. Essentially, this means casting lots, kind of like flipping a coin or drawing straws. It tells us that sometimes human ego gets so massive that the only way to settle a dispute between powerful parties is to use a completely objective external method where neither side gets the satisfaction of winning the argument.
We really want to avoid getting to that point though, right? Because the damage of conflict is just so severe. This is perhaps one of the most powerful metaphors in the entire text. A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city. When you deeply break trust with someone who is close to you, their defenses immediately go up. Their contentions become like the thick iron bars of a medieval castle. It is incredibly difficult to breach those walls once they lock down. Prevention is just infinitely better than trying to wage a siege to win a friend back.
So how do we actually build strong bonds instead? Well, it requires active output on our part. For instance, finding a wife is highlighted as a profoundly good thing that obtains favor. And when it comes to everyday friendships, Ozyphos gives us the ultimate golden rule. To have friends, a man must first show himself friendly. You have to put the effort in. And the ultimate prize for that effort? Finding that one true friend that sticks closer than a brother. Loyalty really is the highest currency in the economy of relationships. And why are these relationships absolutely vital? It comes down to human fragility. The text makes a fascinating contrast between physical pain and emotional pain. It says the spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, meaning humans possess incredible resilience. A strong internal spirit can carry you through terrible physical illness. But a wounded, crushed spirit, who can bear it? When your internal world is shattered by broken trust or careless words, it's just an unbearable weight. We need those strong relational bonds to keep our spirits whole.
All right, we've looked at the blueprint. We've covered the intentional pursuit of wisdom, the heavy gravity of our words, the hidden trap of pride, and the vital nature of our relationships. So I want to leave you with this one final challenge. Based on your words and actions today, are you building a strong tower of prudence, or are you slowly constructing a fool's snare? Think about it.